Alright, so in theory at least, should be going live. We'll give it a minute here until I can verify it on screen yet. Looks like. There we go. Alright, so good morning, everybody. Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Trekker here. And I see Commander Shran was first in, says hello. Piano Dean is here, as is Kuroganite. Oh, Kuroganite. I don't. Why do you call yourself Kuroganite? So I want to give it a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to do something a little different than I usually do for this Advent Sunday. And for those of you that don't know, Advent simply means just Advent Sunday is the Sunday of or the Sunday before Christmas, depending on when Christmas falls in the calendar. A lot of churches celebrate an Advent season for sometimes days or even weeks in advance. There are, varying traditions within Christendom. The church that I grew up in, the Methodist Church, would do Advent for 4 weeks. And there are traditionally 5 Advent candles that you would light for various aspects of Christ himself. They are, if I'm trying to remember correctly, is love, joy, peace, hope, and then the 5th candle in the center is for Christ. And so you in the Methodist church that I attended, the 4 weeks prior to Christmas, each week they would light one of those 4 candles, and the service that week would be themed on that particular thing. At our church, we do it a little bit differently. We do a single Advent service, whatever the weekend before or the weekend of the holiday. And so we have all 5 candles up there, and we have 5 speakers. So the service doesn't run long because each person only gets a few minutes. And so the first person lights the first candle, talks about hope. Second person lights the second candle, talks about love, joy, etc. Until Pastor Corey generally comes up, lights the final candle, the Christ candle, and gives a couple of minutes worth of a message. So what am I going to do that's a little different? Well, I'm actually going to play Corey's segment because he really summed up to me what this year was like for a lot of people. And if you and I'll tell you, he's Corey's not a boring speaker. He's not one of those. And then the Lord said unto you, no, he's not one of those. And anybody I know Piano Dean has watched a few of his services online already. And the Advent services are different than the normal structure, but I just love what he said here. And I was thinking about trying to reiterate it a little bit, and I was like, you know what? Corey gave me permission to use anything I wanted from the church services, so I'm just going to show the clip of him. It's not particularly long, maybe 5 to 7 minutes, which is, about the shortest sermon you'll ever hear. But I think that you will enjoy it if you care about these things. Now, I will say it does start with a brief reading from the book of Luke, and that is where we're going to pick it up. And looking very Klingon today. Well, I'll take that as a compliment, I guess. I assume you're talking about the hair. But thank you, Richard. And LD's here, too. Thank you, LD. I saw Professor Brainy Specs is here. Let me go back and just say hi to everybody before we get started. So, I can never say your name. Don't forget the inevitable Advent calendar, indeed. But is it Mysticina? However you say your name, welcome. Obviously, Professor Brainy Specs, who keeps thinking he's last, even though he's clearly not. Trustin is here. Good to see you. LD, Old Man Guy. That's an interesting one. Richard, 465, says I look Klingon. Captain Trek is here. Bruce Lombardo's here. Yitzy's here. How do you... Now you know Yitza. That's how it is, I think. Yitza. Why are 2 birds attacking a Trekker's head? Well, they're the birds of love, I guess. Mountains of Elysium. And by the way, yeah, we were, and I know that just now on Captain Trek stream, we were kind of messing around with the lovely latest antics of Google where you can only post certain links in the chat. Like we are having no problems. Well, most of us are having no problems putting in like the link to the Young Turks channel. When you try to put a link to like my channel, it won't go through. Old Meaty Guy says that's a serious cup of coffee. Yeah, that is one of my. I prefer larger cups. This is a like a 24-ounce cup. And yeah, I like my coffee. And let's see. Richard's laughing at Bird of Prey, but I didn't see Bird of Prey post in the chat. That's weird. The Book of Luke, Mandalorian spoilers. Okay. I guess that's weird. I guess it came out of order for me. All right, so yeah, Book of Luke, not that Luke, Bird. And I apologize if you hate hearing Bible readings. It's not a particularly long one, like I said, but it's still it's not. Well, the passage he's going to read is one of the most well-known passages in the Bible. It's basically just the Christmas story. And don't worry, he's not going to drag that on forever and a day. But that is where he starts his message, and then he gets into why he wishes you a Merry Christmas, which is like, that's just nails it. So let me get my screen share ready here. And we need to share audio. All right, so hopefully y'all will be able to hear this. So I'm going to play just the Bible reading, and then I will ask you to. I hate when I have like little things pop up. Okay, that was a message from Cinnabon. All right, and I'll play the just the Bible reading. See if y'all can hear it. If you can, great. I'll continue on. If you can't, then we'll have to troubleshoot. Here we go with Pastor Corey Tremble of the Experience Community Church.
In Luke chapter 2, it says this: In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that the whole empire should be registered. This first registration took place while Quirinius was governing Syria. So everyone went to be registered, each to their own town. Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and the family line of David. He was to be registered along with Mary, who was engaged to him and was pregnant. While they were there, the time came for her to give birth. Then she gave birth to her firstborn son, and she wrapped him tightly in cloth and laid him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them. In the same region, shepherds were staying out in the fields and keeping watch at night over their flock. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Don't be afraid, for look, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will..."
Okay, I got to pause it here for just a second, but this is just stupid little trivia for you. That little dark circle there, that's my head from last night. Just saying.
Be for all people. Today in the city of David, a Savior was born for you, who is the Messiah, the Lord. And this will be a sign for you. You will find a baby wrapped tightly in cloth and lying in a manger. Suddenly there was a multitude of heavenly hosts with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and peace on earth to the people he favors." When the angels had left them and returned to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go straight to Bethlehem and see what has happened, which the Lord has made known to us." They hurried off, and they found both Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger, and after seeing them, they reported the message that they were told about this child, and all who heard was amazed at what the shepherds told them. But Mary was treasuring up all these things in her heart, and she was meditating on them. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had seen and heard, which they had just been told. So I have learned the most important lesson that I've ever been taught, and that Jesus is the only hope for I or anyone else in this world. If I have stepped away from 2020 with one lesson, it is that we have nothing to lean on except for Jesus Christ. I've seen that our hope cannot be in the government because the government is self-serving and unreliable. I've seen that my hope cannot be in health because health can be taken without warning, without notice. I've seen that our hope cannot be in the economics because the economy can halt and jobs can instantly vanish. I've seen that our hope cannot be in mankind because mankind is weak in the face of adversity and divisive in times of confusion. We have truly seen the worst of humanity this year. I've seen that our hope cannot even be in the weekly gathering of the saints because even that can be stopped for a short period of time. Again, the only constant I have seen, the only stability I have witnessed this year is Jesus Christ. I don't get up here and wish you a Merry Christmas because everyone is healthy and rich. I don't wish you a Merry Christmas because our nation is safe and secure. I don't wish you a Merry Christmas because humanity is at its best. I wish you a Merry Christmas because the Savior has not only come, but he has always been here. I wish you a Merry Christmas because the God of the universe came to earth as a vulnerable child, and that child grew up to be the perfect sacrifice for the world. I wish you a Merry Christmas because the King is in his rightful and secure place, the throne of authority over all things. And I wish you a Merry Christmas because that King loves all of us very much. You and I have no idea what the future will bring, but Christ does. And if we put our trust in him, regardless of what happens on this earth, we can have joy and hope and love and peace. I wanted to personally tell all of you, thank you for trusting us this year. Thank you for being present. Thank you for serving. Thank you just for being patient with us as we've tried to navigate all the nuttiness that has been going on. And even if we haven't done everything right, I can guarantee you and I can tell you straight from my heart that we love all of you and that we've done everything we can to just serve you to the best of our abilities.
And that's pretty much it. Other than that, he thanks us a little bit more. And then Kyle, the gentleman behind him at the piano, normally he's not up there when Corey's preaching, but Advent service is a little different. Like I said, that's the entirety of his message. It's only a few minutes. And Kyle, takes the microphone and is supposed to close us out in prayer, but last night he called Corey to come back up. We gave him a little gift, something that we've done a few times in the past, where Kyle, who is a good friend of Corey's, of course, but also has his little secret communications channels to get out to many of us, basically says, hey guys, we want to try to do something nice for Corey. If you can give a few bucks, let me know. And then what we would do is what is sometimes referred to as the Pentecostal handshake, which is where you carefully put your money in the palm of your hand so that it's hidden, and you shake Kyle's hand and slip him money so that he can collect it and then get a nice gift for Corey, which we gave it to him last night. I don't know what it is yet, but we'll see. What is the link to the channel? It's just Experience Community Church on YouTube. I don't know that I can post the link because YouTube is being so wonky with that kind of thing. But I will, let me grab it right here. I'll show you. Here's the link to the Advent service itself, the one that I was just playing. I don't know if you'll be able to see that link that I just posted or not because of the way YouTube is. And I will tell you, if you are one of those people, and I know there's a lot of people out there who are believers, but because of COVID, either their church is shut down, or they're just afraid to go out, or they feel like they don't have a community, then it's a great, they currently, during COVID, they will be putting out all 4 of their weekend services online. The service is the same, just small variations. Like Corey cuts loose a little bit more in the 7 o'clock as far as with his humor and stuff, and stuff like that. But other than that, it's the same. I don't see if the link that I put in came through. I don't know. YouTube has been censoring a lot of stuff lately. rather blatantly, which is kind of sad, but yeah. And would he appreciate a 3D printed Baby Yoda? Probably not. Not that I think that the funny thing about that is that Corey is one of those people. I mean, by the way, Corey does occasionally watch my channel, which makes me very nervous because I know that sometimes. Yeah, you didn't get the link. Yeah, it's YouTube is just stupid. Let me try. I wonder if I paste as plain text if it'll work. I'm posting it over and over and over. Let's see. And of course, YouTube is just blatantly censoring crap now. I mean, I'm trying to paste a link to a YouTube video or a YouTube channel in YouTube. It's obviously I'm not trying to drive you to some other website where I'm trying to sell you something and they block it. It's absolutely insane. It's like when I was doing a live stream last night or yesterday during the day. I'm sorry, I didn't do one last night, and Friday night, I can't put the link to the live stream in there. They made it so it's impossible to do that. So you got to put it in the description. Am I worried Corey wouldn't approve? Not at all, because I already talked to him about it. He knows that I do this stream. He's watched this stream a couple of times. He knows what I do. And I told him if he ever thought that I overstepped myself or I said something completely inappropriate to call me out on it. So he knows what I do. And, he's heard my rants. And by the way, part of the reason that he stumbled across my channel is because he was so angry at The Last Jedi. And that's what I was getting to about the Baby Yoda thing. I don't know that he's watched The Mandalorian, but I haven't had a chance to talk to him. Last night, you could see in his little short message there, he was getting very emotional. He doesn't get that like that all the time. He's not one of those preachers that cries all the time. But he does, when it's something that's very near and dear to his heart, get a little emotional sometimes. And when he doesn't like people to bother him after service. So I left him alone, but maybe next week or something I want to talk to him about the fact that I think that they really did a lot of brand repair with Star Wars in this last episode. Anyway, but the core of that message is something Corey's talked about a couple of times and something I've mentioned a couple of times here, which is we cannot, and I know my non-Christian friends may have a problem with this, and I certainly understand that, but I know he's aware of The Mandalorian. I just don't know that I don't think he's watched it. Is as a matter of faith, and what people don't understand is what does faith mean? Because a lot of people think that faith simply means believing in God or believing in things that you cannot see or believing in things that cannot be proven. The element of uncertainty in faith is not lack of evidence of existence. It's lack of proof of intent. So if I say I have faith in you, I'm not saying I believe you exist. I'm saying I believe you will do the right thing. That I have faith that you will do X. I trust you. And so when we talk about faith in Christ, it's not an affirmation of Christ's existence. If you are struggling on whether or not Christ existed, you're nowhere near the point. You can't have faith in something you don't believe is real. And so that's where I get a little mad at, and yes, Bird of Prey, we did shake hands during a pandemic. But we didn't all shake, and he did ask to, hey, if, your whole family, if different people in your family want to give all the money to one person. So, and Kyle had lots of hand sanitizer handy. But anyway, it's when atheists sometimes criticize Christians and saying that faith is stupid, they're misusing the term. They could say belief in God is stupid and be more accurate as far as what they are trying to assert. But faith simply means trust in something that's already established to exist. And so when I talk about that I have faith in God, I'm not saying, oh, I believe that God exists. I do believe God exists. And of course, there are times, because we cannot absolutely prove or disprove the existence of God, that everybody has doubts about God's existence, which some people will call a crisis of faith. Because if you start to doubt that God exists, you obviously can't have faith in that God if you don't think He exists, and that's where those kind of things come up. And but the point of and that ain't going to work out. And by the way, it's not just the American government he's criticized. He's talked about this in prior messages. Is the fact that throughout human history, every government eventually fails. And part of the reason, and old media guy, I don't know what glitch you're talking about, so I didn't see it personally, but what was the glitch? Anyway, but throughout human history, every governmental system has failed except for the ones that are currently active. So it's and don't worry, Aberjam, sooner or later you will. it's just a natural part of your life, and it's a tough time when you go through that. So maybe it was YouTube trying to, realizing that I'm talking about Jesus, and so wanted to, block me or something. I don't know. Could be the algorithm. Who knows? But you want to put your trust in an institution that will fail eventually. No, thank you. You talked about putting your faith into, other institutions and stuff like that, and or even like your health, right? So you can't put your trust in your health because, especially like these days with COVID, people, granted, most people get COVID and everything's just fine. Some people get COVID and then they're dead. And he talked about this last night, and it really, and in fact, I think he mentions it just after the segment that I showed. Last Thursday, and when I say last, I mean just a few days, last Thursday was 3 days ago, right? So, yeah, just 3 days ago, 2 people from our church died in a car accident. One of them was 20, the other was 31. So you can't even have faith that tomorrow will come. Because any of you could, like after I'm done with this live stream, I could go downstairs to go to the bathroom, trip on the top step, fall down, break my neck, be dead. Anything can happen to where your life is just over. So you can't have faith in that. You can't have faith in tomorrow. And so what can you have faith in? What is the one constant, as Corey was saying? And for him, this year was a big eye-opener to him, which is that we need to stop trying to put faith. And yes, being angry at God can be a definite crisis of faith. I've been through that one once or twice too. And we'll talk about that, Eastland, because that's something definitely worth digging into a little bit. But yeah, we have a crisis of faith when, because if God is the one thing that can endure, then what do we do when that is in doubt, right? And that's where you get into the idea of a crisis of faith, whether it's disbelief or, being angry in and of itself can be a crisis of faith, but sometimes you can avoid it. For example, Job was angry at God. But even in the book of Job, it says Job never once sinned. Job didn't say, God, your plan is stupid. He didn't say, you know what, I don't think you got a good plan at all. He just said, why? Why am I going through this? And that's something that I've asked many a time. Even though, granted, I know compared to Job, my life is wonderful. But I think about the fact that I may never be able to walk without a cane again. and then all the myriad things that I can, and it's really depressing sometimes when I start thinking about, oh man, I can't wait until I can lose a little weight, go backpacking again. Oh yeah, I'll probably never go backpacking again because I can't walk. I can't hike in a mountain, and I love the mountains, so that's out. I have my motorcycle in the garage, right below where I'm sitting right now. I'll probably never ride it again. And man, I love riding my motorcycle. But I can't hold the motorcycle up when I come to a stop because of my knee. And things like that get to you sometimes. I'm not going to lie, this has been a very, very difficult year psychologically for me. I have just been, and of course, and don't get me wrong, I'm not mad at you guys, my subscribers. But sometimes it got very frustrating there too, because while I'm sitting there, just feeling this whole lump of depression over all the things I can never do. And meanwhile, the things that I can do are becoming increasingly difficult. Things like getting dressed in the morning is a great chore for me. It's extremely painful, extremely difficult to do. Walking up the stairs to sit at my desk, very painful, very difficult to do. I'm doing my best to get the garage organized so that I can, and then I'm going to have to get some money together to get an HVAC installed in the garage so that I can move my office into the garage, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to walk up these stairs. Right? So, and if I can't walk up the stairs, not only can I not do the YouTube stuff, I can't do my regular job either, because unless somebody's going to literally haul me up the stairs, which, then what am I supposed to do? Have someone carry me up and down the stairs every time I need to go to the bathroom or something? No. So I'm trying to make, reasonable adjustments, but it just hits like a ton of bricks sometimes when you realize all this stuff, right? And then so then of course I have people that'll say, "Hey, Andy Checker, when's this going to be done? When's this going to be done? When's this going to be done?" All this stuff that I've been trying to get done, and I know that nobody has any ill intent when they say those kinds of things, but I also know that, and just so you know, when people say that, there are two things that go through your mind. One is, okay, so the only thing they care about is, what can you do for me? Which, granted, that kind of makes sense, because, if you're on YouTube, you're not looking for things where, that you're going to do for them. You're looking, see, Stanley, thank you so much. But where, you're not going to YouTube looking for things you could do for other people. You're going to YouTube to watch videos that edify you, that you enjoy, and that kind of thing. And so that's totally reasonable to say that kind of stuff, but it just weighs heavy on me because I've been struggling to get even basic videos done. And I know I need to get more videos done. And so it's been increasingly difficult for me. And it's like every time I think I've got it licked, then it feels like someone just turns it up to 11 again, right? So it's difficult. And that's the kind of the point of Corey's whole message. Because you start putting faith in this or that or this or that, it's going to let you down. You trust in any person or institution on this earth, and it will let you down. And despite what Hollywood tries to tell you, trust in yourself, and you will let yourself down. But you put your trust in God. Oh, sure, sometimes we don't get it. And that's where I've been trying to, and this has been a struggle for me this year, and I've been, a similar journey as Corey, is that I'd be like, God, I don't understand why you're doing this. I don't understand why my leg is all jacked up. I don't understand why, my back is all jacked up. I don't understand why every time I try to take a step forward, it feels like you're throwing me 3 steps back. But hey, your will be done. Whatever it is, I'll trust it. And That's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it's an impossible thing if you lack any faith, but it's not easy even when you do have faith to express the faith in that way, to acknowledge the things that you know that God could, it's one of those things where people say, oh, well, I just know God's going to fix that. Well, no, you can hope, and that's the kind of the point. You hope God will fix that. You don't know he will, you just know he can. And that's something I have a problem with a lot of televangelists and other charismatic type preachers, where they say, no, this is what God will do. No, this is what you hope God will do. Well, I'm speaking in faith. I have faith that God's going to heal that. That's not. That's completely bogus. You have faith that God's plan is for the ultimate good of mankind, but you don't know if he's going to heal this person or not. God may choose to, he may choose not to. And so it's difficult. It is truly difficult. And this has been a difficult year for me, and I'm glad, but you have no idea how glad I am that 2020 is finally drawing to a close. No idea. Let me read some of the chat because, I've hardly touched it. So Stanley says, we have a great wife and family. I'm relatively healthy but single. Hey, there are things to be thankful for. Absolutely. And I will tell you, living in the Western world, something that we forget is no matter how bad we think it is, there are people on this planet that would kill to be in our position. Right? So, there are places in the world where if they had a knee like mine, they just cut your leg off. Hey, deal with it. Darren says, the Lord gives us what we can handle. Remember that. Well, you know what? Sometimes I think there might have been a slight miscalculation, but I understand. Captain Trek says, just get one of those stair lifts you could ride up and down on the chair. Yeah, sure. You going to pay for it? That's, you got my PayPal info is in the description. Send me the $10,000 or whatever it costs to get that stupid thing installed. And then Darren says, finish Hulk and the pain will go away. Fundraiser for an Andy Trekker stair lift. Honestly, you know what? It would probably be cheaper to do what I'm trying to do in the garage than to install a chairlift. But I don't know. I haven't tried to price them because I'm hoping, and again, there's hope, not faith, but hope that the knee thing will eventually get better. And that is a possibility. The doctors keep saying, well, it's always possible that it'll heal up. But they don't know if and when. So I'm trying to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. So I think the best compromise, because if I don't, what would really suck is if I actually manage to get the stair lift installed, then my knee gets better and I don't need it. Right? What a waste. Moz, beware, it's Sunday and there's lots of trolls around. Keep an eye out. And Trekker often gets hit. Thank you, Darth Revan. I'll tell you, the trolls have been out in spades lately. I don't know what's up with that. Dr. Alex, how you doing, my friend, says, hello, Anti-Trekker, I feel you. Don't worry about the super chat vids for my latest project. I found another way around the problem. The project is almost complete. Very interesting. But yes, I'm looking forward to your project. And by the way, I am working on getting XSplit back up and running. I have a ticket open with the folks at XSplit because there's something weird going on. It's not wanting to run on my system now. Darren says, finish Hulk and you'll feel like you can win a marathon. You might be right. You know what? You may be right, Darren. I'm going to put some energy into that this Advent season. Remember, it's all about red and green, and, well, green is Hulk, right? All right. Darth Revan says, this year has been hard for me. Irish lockdowns may injure my injury earlier. I tried to selfus deletus in my lost friends and cousin passed from the beer bug and my best friend being sick. Darth Revan, I love you, man. But sometimes with some of the stuff you write, I'm not... when you say selfless deletus, I hope you don't mean this, because on the right, my injuries earlier on tried to delete us in my lost friends. I dude, do you speak English? I'm kidding a little bit, but I don't quite get what you're saying there. I mean, I know the beer bug is. You don't have to call it the beer bug. YouTube has lifted their ban on talking about COVID. You just can't be a conservative and talk about COVID, I guess. The funny thing is, like, I'll tell you, like with the COVID thing, I know a few, not hardcore, but like semi-COVID deniers. The people that are like, oh, it's no big deal. Those kind of people. And which I was one in the early days of it. I'm not going to lie. I was like kind of dismissive of it. But now, and it's funny because at this point, it's like if you really wanted to say the COVID's nothing, I think you kind of got to go against what the facts are. Like Tennessee, for example, the state I live in, the governor of Tennessee has been very, very, very reluctant to put any kind of restrictions on. All right, so we've had no official statewide lockdown throughout this entire process, and we've had no mask requirement on a statewide level. Some counties have instituted mask requirements, such as Rutherford County, where I live, but there's never been a statewide mask requirement. And now Tennessee is the number one state in new cases. So, yay, go Tennessee. Let's see. I think that you wouldn't be. Let's see. Yeah, I think you said you wouldn't be doing Atlanta with Mrs. Antrecker. Yeah, no, we're not going to be able to do that this year. I also don't think it's worth the risk of visiting my 86-year-old parents until they're vaccinated, so staying home. I'm sorry, Dean. But I know it's rough. I'm hoping that, man, after the vaccine starts kicking in, I'm hoping that we see a dramatic reduction in cases and stuff so that people can start visiting other people again. And that's another thing Corey mentioned. Like, this is the first Christmas he won't get to see his mom. And a lot of people are going through that kind of thing. So we need to support our friends online. I'll probably be doing a Christmas Day live stream just to hang out with some of you guys because I know some of us don't have family that we can visit. So we can visit each other online. It's something. Darren says, Auntie Jerry, yes, Auntie Jerry, the project is almost complete. Juan Valdez nearly separated from his donkey. The pearl is in the river. There is no spoon. All right, and Eastland says, no selfish deletes. Hang on. Okay. Captain Trek says, yes, he means what you think it means. Well, I hope not. And Darth Revan, don't even think about that because, as crazy as you are a friend. All right? So I don't want to hear any of that talk. I can never pronounce your name. I'm so sorry, my friend. I know I suck with some of these names. Life gives you a hand of card, and not all cards are great, but how you play the game with the cards given decides if you win in the end. I disagree. Because if you are, with that analogy, the old poker analogy, right? Well, what do you do if you're dealt a completely busted hand and then you draw and you get nothing, right? So sometimes you're dealt 4 aces, right? And so it's not just how you play the game. Because if you are dealt 4 aces, you win. Unless you're incredibly stupid, which granted you could throw that analogy out there, you have people born with the proverbial silver spoon in their hand, and then they do stupid things like get hooked on drugs and die in a car wreck or something. But then and then very rarely, but sometimes you'll have the person who is, just born into abject poverty and they win the lottery. But even that's more random chance than how you play the game. Darth Revan says, basically saying, in May, I gained a new scar from my wrist from when I tried to check out early. Well, don't try that again, Darth. Do not. And in fact, Darth, because here's the thing. You said that you're going to be visiting Professor Brainy Specs in Texas in 2022, I think you said. And I told Mrs. Andy Trekker, and we're gonna come to Texas in 2022 if that's true. So I don't want to hear any more talk of that, because how am I going to punch you in the face if you check out early? So no. And Bird, of course, wants to point out 4 aces doesn't win over a straight flush. So fine, you're dealt a straight flush then, Bird. Jeez. Didn't mean to, I'm not trying to get pedantic over what hand beats what. I was just trying to show a very strong hand, you know. Old media guy says, I don't get the poker analogy. In poker, you play people more than cards. Well, and that's the funny thing is, there is an element of that to the game of quote unquote life, because it's, you know, the people that tend to be very successful in life are good at manipulating other people. Just saying. And or people that are very pushy. Basically, people that are dicks, you know, and so that's just the way it works. And I do agree with Sean, though, life is not a game. I know what you're going through. I've got my share of health and mobility issues. Hang in there, brother. God bless. Your channel does a lot of good. I appreciate that trust, and that's why I'm here, honestly. I know that, you know, it's very frustrating because obviously YouTube is clearly opposed to the existence of channels like mine. I mean, every day, it's so funny because I was at my sub count will go up and down and up and down and up and down because, you know, I was like, it was going up, 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 and then they shoot it down because YouTube keeps unsubscribing people. And it's like, dang it, YouTube, why are you trying to chase away all your smaller channels? Because obviously you have 1 million subscribers. You don't care if YouTube randomly removes 20 subscribers every day. But when you have, 1,500 and they keep, every now and then they knock 50 off, you're killing me. I don't even want to think about people that are trying, a lot of y'all that are trying to come up now, and it's like, are you even able to gain any significant subs? Because I can't. Anyway, Dar says, LOL, we can have a race. Yes, we will have a race, and I will kick you in the ankle to make sure I win. Professor Bracebank says, you beat, I have to see you and Revan. Oh, the horror, Al, you'll love it. We'll go to your library, check out books, and then never come back to Texas. Not chess, Mr. Spock. Poker. Yes. Chess is the strategic thinking and plotting of moves. Poker is a combination of random chance and personal manipulation. Darth Red says, I don't like street preachers. A lot of them seem to be asses, I guess that's supposed to be. I don't know. As far as street preaching, it's a little different than, when I think of like a televangelist. There are very few televangelists that I can't even think of any that I've ever had any significant respect for, because it seems like the whole point of televangelism is to just make more money, more money, more money. And I understand that while the church, is generally a non-profit organization, right? And I'm fine with that. But, when you're building a 10, 20, 50, $100 million building, your pastor's getting salaries well into 7 figures, flying around on a private jet, doing all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, there are people in their local city starving. Meanwhile, there are people in their local city that are homeless. How does that make any sense? Mega churches should not, I don't have a problem with the existence of large congregations, but these mega churches where they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on frivolous things anger me to no end. It's absolutely insane what some of these people build and what some of these people are paid. That's why, even look, Rick Warren has got one of the largest, I don't know if it still is, but at least a few years ago, was one of the largest mega churches out there, Saddleback, which is in Southern California. And at a glance, people say how awesome Rick Warren is because he doesn't draw a salary from his church. He just makes residuals off his books and stuff like that. And, he's a great guy, blah, blah, blah. And, people say, oh, isn't it just great? Look at how the Lord is working, and then they don't stop to think about the fact. And he said this. I mean, it's not like I'm making speculation. I've heard Rick Warren himself say this in some of his videos. When he planted Saddleback Church, they intentionally looked for not a place that needed a church, but a place where a church could collect a lot of money. So and now his mindset was not the worst, where he's saying, well, he was trying to do it so that he could then turn around and help people around the world. But then if you've ever been to the Saddleback campus, and I have, that campus is larger than a lot of universities. And has it's insane the number of buildings and stuff like that. I mean, this church has, and this is in Southern California where this kind of stuff ain't cheap. So he's probably spent $100 million on that church. And before you spend $100 million on a building, you better have eradicated every social problem in that local area, which last time I checked, Los Angeles was still a dump. Our church, you saw the background when I played the video of Corey earlier. That background, that's not a paint job. That's not a wallpaper behind him. Let me bring it up again so you can see it. And let's see. So those are actual very, very old, 100-year-old pane windows with paint dripping on them from the last few times it was painted. Right there behind Kyle, that is an exposed steel beam, part of the main construction of the building. This is a warehouse that has never been renovated. The only thing that we really did was they put a stage where Corey and Kyle are standing, which in some of the wide shots you get a good look at. They put some carpet on the floor. And let's see, we go here. So this is the wide shot here. So this stage is, and it's very basic. The stage is about 2.5 feet elevated. Just simple plywood for the flooring there, and a brick veneer around the outside with a little circular piece jutting out where Corey's standing. And then they put carpet on the floor and chairs. That's it. And of course some lights and sound, the basic stuff that you have to do. But we did not do any major renovations to the building. The building itself we bought for $5 million. And so a rundown warehouse, granted a large one, but a rundown warehouse we bought for $5 million. Well, when I say we, I mean our church. Obviously, I don't have $5 million to spend. But let me see if I can find a picture of another church here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which I'm not knocking the people at the church as much as just the building itself, and I'll tell you why we left that church. We went there for a little while. And Mark, thank you so much. Puts $5 in and says, why is your Discord link not working? I want to play Path of Exile with you guys. Well, first of all, the link has changed. And so what you can do is, if you look at any of my recent videos, a lot of times the links are, and in fact, Darth Revan, see if you can post the link. If you cannot, Darth Revan, then send it to me on Skype real quick, and I'll put it in the video description. But it has changed. But thank you for asking, Mark. And yes, Path of Exile is awesome. All right, so bringing this back up. So this is New Vision, another church in Murfreesboro. They built this campus from the ground up. Look at that. Look at that interior. That's beautiful, isn't it? And so, I mean, it is a very, very nice place. I'm not going to say but I'll tell you, here's why we left New Vision. And this was before we knew about the Experience Church, or we probably would have left a long time ago. But we were attending New Vision when we first moved to Murfreesboro, because that's where my good friend Lore Reloaded was going at the time. And he suggested it. And so we started going to New Vision, and it was nice. I mean, Pastor Brady was kind of bland, but not bad. You know, it wasn't a horrible church or anything. And obviously, beautiful building, very well maintained, all that. So then they started talking about their budget. And this is the difference between the Experience Community Church and New Vision. So Experience this last year made more money than they had budgeted for, a significant amount more. So what we did was, for the last couple of months, we've been doing food boxes, not just for, we did it for the community, but also for membership of the church. Anybody that like, hey, you know what? We understand it's tough. We're not checking your income. If you're struggling to get a Thanksgiving meal, give us a call. We'll give you a turkey and all the fixings so you can make a Thanksgiving meal. And they did the same thing for Christmas. And they started making these food boxes. We're not talking about, here's the cheap generic stuff like most food boxes. I mean, they're giving out nice butterball turkeys, really nice hams, roasts, the whole 9 yards. Good stuff. Plus, on the Christmas boxes, presents for the kids. So they decided to take the excess and give it to the community, right? So New Vision, one year when we first moved to Tennessee, they had a similar experience where they had a little bit over on their budget. And they were over on their budget by like $200,000. And so they decided to do an expansion on their parking lot so they could add 50 spaces. But they didn't quite have enough to meet their budget. So then they did a fundraising campaign in the middle of the church. The pastor's up there saying, we're going to do a special collection today so we can get another $100,000 so they could pay for this parking lot extension. Really? There's people starving in our town. There's people that need help. And you're going to spend $300,000 so you can add 50 parking spaces to your church. I was insulted by that. And so we stopped going there. But fortunately, we did find the Experience Church shortly thereafter. And so, Yosef, thank you so much, puts $5 in. You are so kind, Yosef. And you know what? I just realized I haven't had the Stream Labs link up. So let me check, because I don't know if anybody's donated that way, because I've been so busy just going on and on. Just want to make sure. So, and I'll read yours just saying, Yosef. I just want to make sure. No, it doesn't look like I missed anything, or Streamlabs is just having difficulty updating, which wouldn't surprise me the way things are going. Anyway, so Yosef says, not sure if there'll be another opportunity to do so. So Merry Christmas, you and the whole Crawford and Anti-Trekker family. Thank you so much, my friend. And Yosef, I hope you have a great 2021. I know that I tease you a lot about Dr. Doom, but it's because you have such a wonderful voice and you seem like a very intelligent guy. And those are qualities that Dr. Doom needs. So, yeah. And there's Crystal Palace for comparison. Yeah, Crystal Palace, I've seen pictures of it. It's just insane. That's another church. Let me see if I can find an image of it. And yeah, let's see. And I think this is like one of the most expensive churches ever built. So you can see it's, look at that. That's just crazy. And the entire wall opens up. I remember seeing when it was first built, them talking about it. And it's just like, I mean, seriously? You're going to spend that kind of money on a building when people are suffering right now. And that to me is unforgivable. And I mean, it's just horrible. So I do take personal umbrage with those kinds of things, and that's something the Experience doesn't do, and that's something that's one of the reasons that I have a lot of respect for the Experience. Oh, and thank you, Stanley. Says happy holidays. Wish I could spare more. Look, you guys know, I'm not going to lie. I live and die by the super chats. It's just a fact. I mean, you guys have paid my mortgage all year this year, and I would be homeless if not for you guys. So thank you for that. But at the same time, I've said over and over and over that I do not want you to give more than you can. You know, so so absolutely. Let's see. Hey, I live in Crystal Palace. I never see that. You know what, Dr. Alex? Well, you may live in a town called Crystal Palace or a province called Crystal Palace, but that's an actual building called the Crystal Palace, which is an insult to God, not a testament to Him, in my humble opinion. And you guys just reminded me there's something that I've been meaning to do. So let me go in. I'm going to try and do it right now. I'm trying to remember how to do this. Personally, personal security, people sharing, payment subscriptions. How do you add another Gmail to your account? That's what I'm looking for. Because what I want to do here, I don't want to create a brand new one from scratch, but I want to add a Gmail to my account specifically for the I'm losing my train of thought. The Bible study we're going to start next month, and I'm just looking at. I don't care about Hangouts. Let me see. Enter name. Let's go to account. Add another account. There we go. Create for myself. All right. All right. So let's see. AT. And then I need a password, huh? All right. Let's see. And we'll use. I don't remember which one I'm using for that one, so let's try. Oh, username must be between 6 and 30 characters long. Okay. There. There. And hope I can remember that one, but should be able to. All right. Okay. Got to put in my birthday. Yeah, gender, male, female, rather not say, or custom. Verify your phone number, blah, blah, blah. And bear with me. All right, where's my Gmail? Is 996484. Verify that. All right. Yeah, your terms and conditions about how much crap you are. Sorry for taking so long, guys, but here's what I'm going to be doing, because this obviously can't post links. So I'm going to put it in the description in just a minute here. All right, so I just created an email address that I am only going to be using for the Bible study that is coming up. The email address is ATBS2021, as in Anti-Trekker Bible Study 2021. all right, at gmail.com. And so I'm going to put that in the description right now for this very video, so that if you didn't have a chance to write it down, you can send in send in your info there. Let's see. And here's what I'm going to ask from you. So before you go running in and sending it, join our 2021 Bible study. So, if you're interested, you will need to provide just a little bit of basic information. Number one, your real name. And if you don't want to give me your real name, I understand, but I do. This is going to be affiliated with the Experience Community Church, so I can't put in Professor Brainy Specs, for example, as an attendee. So I will need a real name to put in for the role. We do not spam people. I'm not going to be asking you for your emails or anything unless you want to get information from the Experienced Community Church, but you can do that on their website. Number two, let me save this first of all, is I need a statement that you understand that basically this is going to be on Wednesday mornings. It's going to be at 6 a.m. Central Standard American Time. All right. So, and by the way, if somebody could send me an email, just I want to make sure that it's working. So atbs2021@gmail.com. Just send me a test email. I'd appreciate it. But I just need your understanding that that's when we're going to be meeting, so you know. I don't want anybody to say, I didn't know when you were meeting. So you're going to put that in there along with your real name. And then what I will do is compile a list of everybody, and I will send a link out to everybody on that list just before we do the actual Bible study. The catch is, it's going to depending on how many people we have. I'm not expecting a huge group, and I don't really I'm not trying to build a church here. You know, I'm not saying, oh, and you have to give me 10% of your income and all that. That'd be nice, but I'm not asking for that. What I will do, though, is assuming that we have 10 people or less, which I imagine is what we'll end up with. And by the way, this is not a Bible debate. This is not a Does God Exist Imposium. This is a Christian Bible study. So I'm going to ask that you also put in the email that you state that, yes, you are a Christian. And the first Bible study, we're going to actually talk a little bit about what that means so that we can all be on the same page. But, you know, this is, and this is no offense to my, you know, I have some great friends here that are non-believers. Dr. Alex, love you. Joseph, love you. Berta Prey, love you. But this is a Christian Bible study. So, you know, and I know you guys know that I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything, but I just have to be real. This is not a Bible study for non-believers. This is a Bible study for believers. Oh, and thank you, Old Media Guy. I didn't even see that you put it, while I was doing all that, you put in $2, said happy to help with the mortgage. I appreciate it, Old Media Guy. I truly do. And Captain Trek puts in 5, says, you need a new Dear YouTube video since mods can no longer post links. Basically, YouTube sucks. Yeah. Absolutely, Captain Trey. And I remember on your stream we were trying the same thing and it failed for you too. I don't know what it is with YouTube, why they're hating on the small channels, but let's hope. And I haven't. Let me see. Let me see if it comes in. That's the wrong URL. There's another social media site that's getting ready to launch. It hasn't launched as of yet. It's called Lighthouse. And it's supposed to, if it works, I will be excited, but you know, we'll have to see. And I do not see any emails yet, so if anybody sent me one, I don't see it yet. Let me make sure it says finish setting up your account. Welcome to Google, your new account, blah, blah, I want to stay in the loop. I don't want that. What? It's like just telling me to, you know, I don't want to set it up on my Android. Confirm options are right for you. Yeah, that's fine. All right. And then let's go to Um, anyway, so if Lighthouse works out, then I'm going to be migrating over there. But I don't know if it will or not, so we'll see. All right, so let me switch to this one. All right, yeah, there we go. I think I'm there. So please, somebody send me an email. Otherwise, I'm not going to know. But if you do send me an email, like I said, send in that basic information. Yes, you're a Christian. Yes, we're meeting Wednesday mornings at 6 a.m. starting in January, and so not this Wednesday, but we'll start the following Wednesday. And yes, you are a Christian. If you can do that, then I will send everybody the link just before. If we have 10 or less, we'll just do it in a closed StreamYard room. You will need to have a microphone. I would prefer that you have a camera. I understand not everybody does. If you don't have a camera, I understand. But it's nice to have a little face-to-face interaction, not because I'm trying to be mean or anything, but because we do need that as humans. So don't be afraid to show your face just because you think that, oh, I don't look that great. Look at me. And I show my face every day. So it's okay. I promise. We're not going to judge just because none of us are freaking supermodels. Okay? So but I want us to have a real human connection over the internet as well as we can. This is an experiment that I'm hoping works well. We'll be the first basically online branch of the Experience Community Church if this works out, but in order to make it work, we need to make it work. And I see it looks like I got a couple of emails just popped in. So from Captain Trek, thank you so much. And Eastland, thank you as well. All right, so I did get those emails, so thank you both. I appreciate you helping me test the system. And then I will, like I said, since we're not meeting this first week, I'm going to be compiling the list this week. And if somebody wants to join in, I'm going to keep that email in my church life live streams for now, as best I can. So Abraham says, "Oh, I thought it was a different kind of BS." Yeah, I know. That's when I was trying to. I was like, "How am I? Let's see, what do I call this?" And I realized ATBS. I was like, "Oh, that's just too perfect." Stanley says, "I don't understand your devotion to ancient religion. Hasn't helped you conjure up a new 3D printer." Oh, too much. And Mortimer says, "Good morning. How you doing, my friend?" Moxley Fan 21 says, "Have you done away with your Roundtable channel?" I haven't done away with the channel, and I'm actually keeping it as a backup right now. But honestly, here's why I kind of stopped broadcasting on two reasons. Number one, I'm tired of playing the games with Google. If Google is going to blatantly discriminate against Christians, Google, I'm a Christian. Discriminate against me if you will. I'm not going to try to hide it on my channel just because it might help me algorithmically. And so I decided to not just do Sunday mornings on the Rational Roundtable channel, that I'm going to do it here because that also helps it reach a wider audience, to be honest. And Professor Brainy Spec got censored for typing jerk. Really jerk? Let me see. I'm going to put it in and see if it pops in. I just typed in the word jerk and put it in the chat. Doesn't look like it's popping up on the StreamYard chat. So wow. Oh nope. There, mine popped in. So, that is bizarre. But yeah, YouTube and their discrimination stuff. That's one of the reasons I'm really hoping Lighthouse works out. The other side of it is, like just to reach a wider audience. I am who I am. If you're gonna hate me because I'm a Christian, then hate me because I'm a Christian. But I don't care. I'm not into hate. So, and I'm not one of those. Oh, people are picking on me because I'm a Christian. I'm not one of those people. I'm not sitting there talking about religious persecution because people in America have no idea what religious persecution actually is. So I'm not trying to say woe is me for that. But I'm just saying I'm not going to hide either. And just because Google likes to censor. But it is also what I may use the Rational Roundtable channel for is that if the Bible study idea grows to where I can't do it in either a Streamlab or StreamYard, or if I have to get Zoom or whatever we got to do. If it gets too big for that, then we may have to just do private live streams, which we would do on the Rational Roundtable channel. So Captain Trek got censored, but then Aberjam put YouTube is a jerk, and that worked. Chronic Snake 82 put jerk, and then simp, and then jerk face. And again, Captain Trek put jerk, and it worked. Go figure. Speaking of transferring information, I find it funny that Star Trek The Next Generation figured out tablets for storing and working with data. Yeah? Well, it's funny because Star Trek The Original Series actually came up with hard flash media, basically. Granted, they were a little wrong about the size, where they were about the size of a deck of playing cards, but still. A bunch of Bible bashers. I tell you, I don't know. I know that Google has their political agenda, and their political agenda is distinctly anti-religious. But they're entitled to have their opinions on things. But yeah. Can I give the email again, please? Well, it is in the description. If you refresh this live stream, you should see it in the description. But it's atbs2021@gmail.com. And I've seen I've gotten a few in there, so I'll be checking those out later. But thank you, all of you that have... I don't need any more test emails, just so you know. But yeah, if you do want to join, go ahead and send an email there. Like I said, and while we will be taking roll, that's simply for the church, so the church will know if this is something they want to be affiliated with. Because if nobody comes, then it's kind of a waste of time. Granted, they're not paying me or anything. But if it grows to a certain point, they may sponsor it a little bit so that I can have more time to do prep work and stuff, which would be nice. But if the church sees that it's a successful outreach, then that's a good thing, and then I can get Corey to shout it out to some of the people that are looking for a Bible study in our church, but are afraid of meeting people face to face because of COVID. And I will tell you this. One of the people from our church, a very good friend of mine named Danny, he and I have been doing a small group for some time, but we had to suspend it because of COVID. We were meeting every Wednesday morning at 6 at Starbucks, and it was a fun group. There was only like 3 or 4 of us, but that's a small group is just that, a small group. When it's not about, we got to have big numbers. It's about, are we having good, meaningful conversation over the Word of God? And so Danny will be joining us. I told him about it just yesterday, and he's very excited. He's looking forward to it. So you'll get to meet another member of the church. And a lot of Bible studies have been suspended and stuff. And that's part of the reason I want to do it. The only thing. Okay, so episode meeting number 1 that we're going to do the first week of January is we're just going to talk a little bit about what is a Christian, what are the major points of being a Christian, and that's important that we agree on that, right? Because one thing we talk about at the experience, we major on the major, minor on the minors. So we can't have a meaningful discussion if we're all over the map as far as the divinity of Christ, right? There are minor issues, stuff that I know some of you disagree with each other and with me on. Issues like, what is the age of the earth, or what is the shape of the earth, or is this passage literal or allegorical, and that kind of thing. Most of that is actually minors. That none of that, if it's not a salvation specific issue, it's generally a minor, right? So if you want to argue about the literacy of Adam and Eve, that's a minor. Because is Adam and Eve's physical existence relevant to the meaning of the story of Genesis 1? And in my opinion, no. If you believe that Adam and Eve are either 2 literal people that were the first 2 humans ever existed, this is another popular theory, 2 people that were created specifically by God, but mankind also evolved alongside of them, or if they are allegories of some kind for human evolution, or if they are completely metaphorical. Whatever your belief is on that, the meaning of the story is not about whether or not Adam and Eve are two literal people. The meaning of the story of Genesis 1 is about the relative relationship between God, humanity, and earth. And that doesn't change no matter which opinion you take as far as the literal historical value of that book. And so that's not like, I'm not going to argue with you about whether or not Adam and Eve were literal or allegorical, because to me, honestly, from a 2020 perspective, it's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant what the meaning of the story is, but it's irrelevant as to whether they actually existed, because whether they actually existed or not doesn't affect my life at all. And don't worry, don't get me wrong. Those arguments and stuff can be very interesting, but that's not the place for a Bible study. The place for a Bible study is to study the meaning of the text, not the historicity of the text, if that makes sense. But then there are things that absolutely are essential, such as the historicity of the Gospels themselves. If you think the Gospels are metaphorical, we got a problem, right? If you think that Jesus was just a nice guy, but not really the Son of God, we got a problem, right? So that's the kind of stuff, and we'll talk about that in our first Bible study, just to make sure we're nailing down all the ground rules. But then the other thing about it is, do keep in mind, this is not Pastor Mike and his flock, right? That's not the point. I might be leading the Bible study, but that doesn't mean that I'm not claiming any authority over anybody else. All opinions are valid and equal because we are all human beings. And so everybody will participate, will take turns reading and discussing what the meaning of it is. And it's okay if you have a different opinion than the rest, because, we don't improve ourselves by being around people that agree with us. T-Brick says, well, we are loosely listening to the gospel according to Anti-Checker, and I'm okay with that being a pagan. But it's funny because honestly, that's kind of what church is listening to the gospel according to your pastor or preacher. And one thing that people ask Corey, oh, what's the best church to attend? What's the best denomination? He says, whichever one you're willing to attend. As long as they're preaching the word of God, if you're willing to attend, that's a good thing. And George says, Jesus is a combination of multiple individuals, similar life stories, just like Robin Hood. That's a common argument, that Jesus is like this amalgamation. I do understand why some people say that, but I also know that there is plenty of textual and contextual evidence to the contrary of that. Joseph says, I know Jesus from Mexico. Well, that's Jesus, but yeah, I didn't think you've ever been to Mexico, Joseph, being the Eastern European that you are. I mean, don't you just look at Mexico as your slave labor source? Or no, that's Quiroga. Never mind. Anyway, guys, I do hope that some of you will join, and we can have a meaningful discussion in 2021. I think honestly, 2020 has just been such a crap year. I'm very thankful that this is the second to last Sunday morning live stream in 2020. But yeah. And T-Brick says, here's a mind blower. Don't think of Jesus as a savior. Think of him as a teacher and use that context. That would be blasphemy. So no, I'm not going to do that. But I understand if you're not a believer that you might think that that's an interesting thought experiment, but it is almost the exact definition of blasphemy. Mr. Captain throws in $6.99. Thank you, my friend. Says, Merry Christmas, the Anti-Checker family. Glad to see you all. See all your rants, sighs, and bang your head on the wall paid off as we finally saw the real Luke. Yeah, I will tell you that, and since we're wrapping it up anyway, I'll talk about that for just a minute. That moment in The Mandalorian was so epically awesome. I would not have thought, like with watching the last 2 seasons of Mandalorian, I said, you know what? Star Wars may not be back, but boy, is this a step in the right direction. After watching the season finale of season 2, I was like, wow, Star Wars is actually back. And it evolved into a streaming series rather than a film series, and I'm okay with that. If these Star Wars series that they're working on, and the rants of Doomcock and others aside for a minute, if the other shows are done at the same caliber as The Mandalorian and the same respect for the lore of Star Wars as The Mandalorian, we're in good shape. So I'm very excited to see what some of these shows bring. And I don't care about the behind the scenes rumors about who's in, who's out, and what's going on, and who's afraid of this, and what kind of staff. I don't care. What I care about is what are we getting on screen. And if The Mandalorian is a sampling of what is to come, then the future is bright for Star Wars. And the Lore Appreciation Society puts in $5. Says, Merry Christmas to all. Here's our gift for everyone in the chat. Bond, Lore Bond. There's no greater show of love. Lube up and let rip. Wow. Well, let's see. You know what? Because Lore Appreciation Society is truly a unique group. Let me see if I can make it so that I can play that, because I don't have XSplit running, but I might be able to pull up an individual file. So we'll sign off with everybody's favorite dancing naked YouTuber, because what better way to finish a live stream about Jesus than to watch Lore as James Bond. Actually, it's not even Lore as James Bond. Lore as a Bond girl. Let's see. Is it in this one? And okay. I think I can actually make it work. And so, but I'm going to finish up in the chat first, and then we'll move on, or we'll wrap up with Lore Bond. So thank you, Lore Appreciation Society, my old friend. Captain Trek says, if I ever had my morning show, I might be willing to come, but for now, I will not be available. Captain Trek, I totally understand, and you know what? You do what you need to do. If you feel like that, and by the way, if you haven't, you should check out Captain Trek has a daily morning show called Morning Brew, I believe is what you call it. And if if you're getting up in the morning, or if you're on the other side of the pond, if you're getting up in the afternoon and you know what, you just want to hang out with the nerds a little bit, good place to go. And so I would tell Captain Trek to put a link in, but apparently we can't do that anymore. So screw you, YouTube. You'll have to search for Captain Trek. You know what? I'll bet you that's what it is, by the way. I think that YouTube is purposely trying to make it even more difficult to subscribe to smaller channels. And it's just aggravating. Why don't they just, YouTube, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just say from now on, if you have less than 100,000 subs, you can no longer subscribe to that channel. So you just cut off every channel that's less than 100,000 subs. If you're just going to do that, just do it. If you're going to be that much of a draconian dictator, just kill us and get it over with. I mean, the channels, not us. But yeah. For all the prayers, Sally Donald J is a lost and forlorn soul. Okay, I'm not getting into Trump today. Star Wars franchise embracing their strongest thing, the books and the stories, not just epic saga movies. Well, and that's one thing that I think Mandalorian did very, very well, and that's where I think the small screen format will work for Star Wars, is they can tell all those side stories. Not everything has to be the fall of the Empire. And I think that's a problem that the sequel trilogy got into, because the prequels was about the rise of the Empire. The original trilogy was about the fall of the Empire. So then what do? Well, I guess we need another Empire, right? And that didn't work out too well. And they tried to wrap it all up in one. What they really should have done with the sequel trilogy is had the entire trilogy be the rise of a second empire out of the New Republic, rather than have the First Order just show up out of nowhere. But yeah. And yes, Star Wars is saved. R2-D2 is back. That's true too. Although R2-D2 was in the sequel trilogy, but yeah. And Professor Brainy Specs is saying, "Please no, please God no." Oh, Lord, yep, that's coming. And I wouldn't mind more side stories within Star Wars. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's something that hopefully we will see. And Adam is in the genealogy of Jesus. If he's not a real person, we have a big problem. If you can question that, you can question anything in the Bible. But here's the thing to Side Scroll. I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, if this is a stumbling block for someone, and this is why I don't get into the argument about it. If someone has a difficult time because they believe that the earth is 4 billion years old and the Bible says it's 6,000 years old, right? And that to them is the one thing stopping from going to church. And I don't care if they think the earth is 4 billion years old as opposed to 6,000 years old. And the opposite, I would say the exact same thing. If it's a stumbling block for someone to say that, wait a minute, if I go to church and they say the earth is only 6,000 years old, but I believe it's if they say that the earth is 4 billion years old, but I think it's only 6,000 years old, I would say the same thing. That's not something worth losing your salvation over. And the thing about Jesus' genealogy is it's also not an exhaustive genealogy, right? And so you could pick it apart a million different ways. Including Adam in it simply is to show that Jesus was descendant from the first man. Now, different people have different ideas of who and what Adam was. I have my ideas, you have yours. And I think that the way that I believe in Adam and Eve and the way that it fits into the narrative is consistent with the Bible and also consistent with historical evidence. But I'm not going to die on that hill. It's not worth the fight. Because if you believe something about Adam and Eve that differs from me, that's fine as long as we can agree on the core concepts. It's just like some people argue that it's because the Sabbath is mentioned in Genesis that the earth must have been created in 6 literal days. And to which I argue, and I'm not arguing for the age of the earth being 6,000 versus 4 billion or anything. I'm not making the argument either way. But what I'm saying is that to draw a dogmatic line in the sand like that is a bad idea, unless it is a core salvation problem. And it's not. People argue about the Sabbath, but then also, there's another way of looking at those days that is just as consistent and actually makes even more sense, in my humble opinion, as far as God's Sabbath, his day of rest. But we could talk about that in the future during the Bible study. And T-Berg tries to say, Jesus, Allah, Buddha, Dala, I think you mean Dalai Lama, all teachers you can learn from. Disagree. But, I mean, first of all, Allah is, and I know it's a word commonly used in Islam, but Allah is just the Muslim word for God, right? So you're to say that, like when people say God or Allah, it's like, that's like saying Jesus or Jesus, it's honestly, it's just a different language term for the same concept. However, if you want to say Muhammad, that makes a little more sense. But at the same time, the problem is that these concepts are inherently contradictory. And so you can, sure, they all had some nice things to say, but they also, as far as on a deeper theological note, they are all very, very contradictory. And so, yeah. And let's see. There's a whole unexplained area. Yeah, sure, it's a bad, dangerous area. Tell us more. I'm not sure. I assume you're talking about Star Wars. Oh, a series with those little bear things. The Ewoks. We need more stories from Endor. No, thank you. Abijam says you can't just avoid the theological argument with the it's not a salvation issue. That's the disingenuous, poor hermeneutics and very unbearing. Well, here's the thing with that, Abijam. It's not that you can't have those discussions. It's that there's a time and a place for those kinds of discussions. And the problem is that, and this is something I've been guilty of it. And let me see. If I can find the particular scripture that I was thinking of. And where is... I think, is this it? Let's see. Here, I don't know if this is the one I'm looking for, but this is a good one, I think. Okay. Here is a great example of what I'm talking about. This is from Romans chapter 14, starting with verse 1. Accept other believers who are weak in faith. And this is right out of the Bible, okay? Do not argue with them about what they think is right or wrong. For instance, one person believes it's all right to eat anything, but another believer with a sensitive conscience will only eat vegetables. Those who feel free to eat anything must not look down on those who don't, and those who don't eat certain foods must not condemn those who do, for God has accepted them. Who are you to condemn someone else's servants? Their own master will judge them for they stand where they stand or fall, and with the Lord's help they will stand and receive his approval. And then he even goes on to talk about the Sabbath and stuff in this. All right. So you do not argue with another believer about the minutia of the details of whether they think something is right or wrong. You know, you could just as easily throw any of those issues we were talking about. If one believer believes that the earth is 4 billion years old and another believes that the earth is 6,000 years old, you are not to condemn that other person for a difference. So that's what I mean by major on the major and minor on the minors. We obey what the word directs us to do, and the word directs us to not argue about it. So, you know, and now we can have discussions about it, but it's also not a healthy thing to have those discussions in public forums, because that encourages others to believe that there's no consistency within Christendom. Sure, we're going to debate about things because we're humans. We are always debating things about humans. You know, as humans, because we disagree on everything there is to disagree on. Everybody does. But with Christians, if you're publicly debating these types of things, then non-Christians look at them and look at these idiot Christians. They can't even figure out what shape the earth is. And Abijam saying, that's talking about condemning others. That's not instruction on how to study or teach scriptures. But you see, here's the funny thing about that, Abijam. Yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about, because when you say it's not a salvation issue, if it is not a salvation issue, then we shouldn't be discussing it. If it is a salvation issue, then to argue about it publicly is condemning others. If you're saying you're not saved because you don't believe the earth is 6 billion years old, guess what? You are condemning them. That is what condemnation means. But, you know, we want to say, oh, no, I'm just saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that, vegans are sinners. Well, actually, Joseph, according to this, according to that passage I read, it said that people who only eat vegetables because they have a sensitive conscience. So that would actually be saying that, that's a better practice, at least according to Paul. But, and honestly, I think that trying to argue over every little minutia, especially when you start getting into the things that truly do not matter. If the earth is 4 billion years old or 6,000 years old, doesn't make any difference for you today? I will tell you the answer to that is no. It doesn't impact you at all. And so but we want to say, but you're not really a believer unless you believe the earth is, throw in your preferred age. Why? Because we have a difference of opinion on how to interpret the dates or how to interpret the way that it's described. Or one takes the context of actual physical history compared to what the Bible says. And the Bible is more of a theological book. It's not so much a science textbook. I mean, I understand there's a million different ways that argument can go. And then people start saying, oh, well, you see, you believe science before you believe Scripture. And then you start getting into all this, and now you're condemning each other and arguing and getting angry and stuff over something that is not worth fighting over. And if you care about it deeply, that's fine. Care about it all you want. But if you're going to argue about it, that's going against the word. That's perfectly okay if you have that belief on whatever the subject it is that you happen to disagree with me on and all that. And if you want to say, hey, Anti-Checker, you know what, I think you might be wrong about this because here's how I look at it. And I'd be like, oh, okay, Aberjam, that's an interesting way of looking at it, but I'm going to hold on to my belief. That's the end of the discussion. Then we don't need to bicker about it and make a big public display out of it. However, there's nothing wrong with talking about it. Book of John, topical, question mark. The Book of John specific, I think that the entire Bible is topical. I mean, heck, look at this year. And see, arguing about it, it's not just go against the word, condemning each other is against the word. If you are trying to, Aberjam, that's just one of a plethora of verses about arguing, right? And so there are plenty of other examples. You know it. I'm sure you do because you are pretty well versed in this stuff, Aberjam. I'm not saying you know it because I'm reading your mind. I'm saying you know it because you seem to think, you seem to be very intelligent in these manners. But let me see. Here's a good one. Let me bring this one up so I can look at the greater context of it. And that's chapter 1. I think I need chapter 2. Okay. All right, here's a good one. So, keep reminding of God's people of these. This is New Living Translation. I hate that translation. Or New International Version. Let's see. What's the NIV is okay, but I like where is it? We really want to go nuts. We can do the King James Version. That's always fun. Where is the one I was looking for? Dang it. Man, now I can't find the stupid thing, my translation I usually read. Oh, well, so NIV. We'll just stick with the NIV. Keep reminding to God's people of these things. Warn them before God against quarreling about words. It is of no value and only ruins those who listen. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. Avoid godless chatter because those who indulge in it will become more and more ungodly. Their teaching will spread like gangrene. Wow. And again, talking about quarreling with each other over these things. And by the way, when it says godless chatter, that's an interesting thing because you know what is very interesting about these topics that come up, things like the age of the earth and stuff like that, which are the big ones that people like to fight about, is that ultimately we're not talking about God, we're talking about the age of the earth. Now you can say, well, God is implied based on that. No, but yeah, we're not talking about like, oh, if the, saying that here's actually a good one. Thou shalt not kill versus thou shalt not murder. The correct translation is actually thou shalt not murder. Some people take it as thou shalt not kill, and so some people think that you shouldn't kill anything because it's always a sin, even though it's shown that soldiers can be soldiers without sinning, and police officers can be police officers without sinning. Thou shalt not kill is different than thou shalt not murder. That's a decent argument. If you want to argue about the nature of God, that's a little different, right? If you want to argue about the core teachings of God, namely, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. You want to tell me that's wrong? We're going to have issues. But if you want to argue over the age of the earth, I'm sorry, Aberjam, it's just not worth fighting over. And I understand that it's important to some people, but you know what? That's also why Christendom tends to alienate a lot of people. Because I will tell you straight up, and atheists in the chat right now, back me up on this. You want to sit there and dogmatically state that the earth is 6,000 years old, and the response from the atheist is, look at those idiots. That's not going to win anybody over, is it? So that's not a hill I'm going to die on, my friend. And if you want to fight on that hill, I understand. But I'm not going to do it. Because I'm not about alienating people just because of something that's ultimately not that important. And Chronic Snake says, what if I can love my neighbor but not myself? Well, that's the interesting thing there, Chronic Snake, because the commandment specifically says to love your neighbor as yourself. So if you don't love yourself, then you got problems. And that's out of the mouth of Christ himself, that all of the law and all the prophets rests on the fundamental concept of loving God and loving humanity. But you can't, and the problem is, it's interestingly enough, you can't properly biblically love others if you can't love yourself. And you can't love God if you can't love others, and you can't love others if you can't love God in a biblical sense. I'm not saying that, you can't have good relationships with people and be an atheist. That's not what I'm saying at all. But as far as the biblical concept of love, it doesn't work if you leave out any of those three concepts. SRM says, if one takes the view being the Son of God, taking the sins of the world unto yourself, accepting the world and people, good and bad, Jesus will be a teacher of this, just not the only metaphorical interpretation, still considered a Christian. If one takes the view being a son of God, takes the sins of the world himself, accepting the world's people, good and bad, Jesus would be a teacher of this, just not the only one. I would say no, you're a universalist at that point, as opposed to a Christian. Basically, universalism is just the core concept that pretty much all religions have truth in them, so to speak, and that basically any path can lead to God. And the reason that I have a problem with this, I used to be, when I first kind of reconverted to theism from atheism, I started to think of kind of a universalist type of concept. But then I realized that there are some stark problems with that. Right. One, of course, being that Christ himself says, yeah, I'm the only way. It's in the Bible. All right. So that's number one. And by the way, that's in the Old Testament too, where God says you'll put no other gods before me. And so the Bible pretty much it says, yeah, universalism is out the window. And then you also have the inherent contradictory natures of many of these other beliefs. So it doesn't work quite right if, for example, you have other faiths that will say that Christ is not the Son of God. Well, then now you have a direct contradiction, right? or they say, oh yeah, Christ was a good guy. Look, if Christ, and I know this is an old argument, but it's absolutely true. C.S. Lewis put this in Mere Christianity, I believe. If Christ was just a teacher, he was a lunatic. Period. Because he was running around telling people he was God. So, David Koresh, anyone? So no, if he might have been a nice enough guy, but if he was not the Son of God, then yeah, he was just crazy. And Bird of Prey says history started in 1776. Everything else before that was a mistake. Right, Bird. I'm sure Bird, I hope you don't actually believe that. I know you love this country, Bird, and there's nothing wrong with loving your country. But that's just weird. And Aberjam says, discussing issues beyond salvation is important for all Christians. If we do not study and discern accurately, we do not grow and are less effective. We must simply do it lovingly. Right. But that's what I'm talking about, Aberjam, because what we do online, we do not discuss things lovingly. Now, and that's what I'm trying to say. In a small Bible group, now we have to agree on the major issues, right, which we kind of already outlined, that Christ is the Son of God, the core tenets of Christianity, love God, love your neighbor as yourself, stuff like that. If we can't agree on that, then there's no point in moving on, right? Then and the point of a Bible study is, so then we start dissecting actual books of the Bible. And we start looking at it from a line-by-line, note-by-note study. That's the whole point of a Bible study. And there we can talk about those things. We can say, well, I always thought this and this and this. Well, let's look up this and let's talk about this and let's, that's why we have Bible studies. And but the problem is that's not what we do, Aberjam. What we do is we argue quite publicly about this stuff. And I mean, we have people out there saying, if you don't believe this, you're going to hell. You actually have people saying that. And the sad thing about it is every time somebody says that, they're done in my book. If you start saying, if you don't believe X, you're going to hell, you are doing exactly what the Bible says not to do. You do not condemn other people, period. And yes, that is condemnation. If you are telling someone they are going to hell, that is the definition of condemnation. If you tell someone they are not saved, that's the same thing, just with slightly nicer terminology. So if we want to sit there and argue about those kinds of things, or even discuss them lovingly, as you say, that's fine, but we do not do that in a public forum. That's something we need to break ourselves of. Because guess what? Non-believers are watching. Like right now, in this discussion, there are plenty of non-believers, right? And I love you guys. And some of them are probably laughing at us right now. Why? Because we look like idiots when we sit here and argue over whether or not the earth is 6,000 years old. We absolutely look like idiots to them. And that's not helping anybody. And in fact, it's funny because there's an album by the band DC Talk called Jesus Freak. Great album, one of the few Christian albums I actually really like. And in that, like many albums of its day, in between some of the songs, it would have little 30-second snippets of people talking about various stuff. And in one of them, they say something that is, to me, extremely profound, that the single largest cause of atheism in the world today is Christians. Because of our bickering, because of our attitude, because of our condemnation of others, because of our judgmentalism, all of which is condemned by the Bible. We sit there and point the finger at gays all day long as a group. I'm not talking about we here in this room, but as Christians tend to do this. And and quite frankly, every time I see it, I cringe and I find it offensive to the core, because guess what? Guess what the Bible says about that? Does it say to point the finger at people who have a different sexual preference of yours? No. That's not at all what it says. What it does say is that, let's see, it's funny, I just got a message from Pastor Corey. But what it does say is that I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, man. Got sidetracked as I was like, wow, I got a message from Corey. But what? No, I can't. Where was I? Man, I just completely got lost on that one. See, only human. What it does say, and I can't remember what I said just before that. So I can't remember. Whatever your belief. I'm not sure. Oh, you're talking about that. Okay, so I heard that there's a Bible study, but I missed the details. When are you planning to do that? I'm planning to start it in January, John DeMarco. So there's an email in the description of this video. You can send an email there. What I do ask people to confirm in that email is that, first of all, I would need your real name. If John DeMarco is your real name, that's perfectly fine. Just put that in there because it will be used for roll purposes. Nothing more than that, but I have to turn in a roll call to the church in order to show that, we're meeting a certain number of people and over that, and so that the church knows what we're doing. Number two, that you understand this is a Christian Bible study, that this is not meant for if you're a non-believer and you want to argue about it. This is not a outreach for non-believers to try and convert them. This is just a discussion group for Christians. And number three, that we will be meeting on Wednesday mornings at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Convert to your own time zone. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with time zones, but it's Central Standard Time, 6 a.m. is when we're going to be meeting. So that everybody is aware of that off the bat. So that's what I ask you to confirm in the email. If I get any emails that don't confirm that, I'll just reply and say, hey, here's what I need you to confirm. But I'm going to compile the list of everybody. We're going to start meeting hopefully first week in January, if not the second week in January, depending on how things go this week. That's the basic game plan. And Aberjam says, sure, our discussions may get heated. We never lose love between each other. We as a community know each other's lines. I get that, Aberjam. And I know that, look, I love you. But I think that it's dangerous for us to argue about it publicly. I think that's extremely dangerous. And so... Oh, that's right. We were talking about when, like, we point the finger at gays, right? That's the big thing that Christians have been doing the last couple of years. That's been a big popular thing to bicker about. So we point the fingers at gays and tell them they're going to hell. So what does the Bible say about that? It says, don't do that. It flat out says you do not hold non-Christians to Christian standards because they aren't Christians. So of course you don't point the finger at them and tell them how horrible they are. But, we forget about that. Were you talking about focusing more on love? No, well, it's about focusing on the essentials. And yeah, love, what a Christian should be known for, what a Christian used to be known for, is a person who was always helping others. Now, a Christian is a person who's pointing the finger at those evil sinners and telling them how horrible they are. That's what most people think of Christians. And when we start bickering with each other over stuff publicly, it just reinforces that. Alex says, Dear Andy Trekker, I believe that the TNG episode Rightful Heir was influenced by the last temptation of Christ. Worf is Jesus, Gowron is Satan, Kahless is God. That's an interesting way to put it, but I don't know, Last Temptation of Christ, not the best movie from a theological standpoint. It's horrible. Willem Dafoe delivers a good enough performance. It's a thought experiment about what, and I know it's one of those things where the movie starts out with saying, hey, no disrespect intended. It's not blasphemous because we're just thinking. No, it kind of is. But Willem Dafoe delivers a fine performance in it, but the very core concept of the movie is blasphemy. And I'm not saying the Mary Magdalene scene that everybody got their panties in a bunch over. It's the very concept that Jesus was basically a coward and that he basically didn't want the job. It was, and they were taking the approach that Jesus was just a dude that God sent a message to one day saying, guess what you're going to do? So, is it a horribly made movie? No, but just from a theological standpoint, it's horrible. We should endeavor to be Christ-like, and of course, but it's also important for others to see our warts as well. It removes the stigma that one has to be good to be saved. Well, like I said, I'm just reading what the Bible says about bickering publicly. We don't do it. Period. Which is funny because we're actually arguing about whether or not we should argue. Joseph says, I would like to lurk in Bible study one day if you streamed on Rational Roundtable and blocked the chat. Well, that would depend on how it goes, because any kind of, like, if we ever publish it or stream it or anything like that, I would need to get the consent of everybody involved, because I don't want anybody to be offended by it going public. But I understand that, Joseph, and if that becomes a possibility, I will let you know. Because I don't have a problem with that, as long as, again, it would have to be, as long as everybody was being respectful and everything during it. And let's see. That movie taught me that if you huddle in the desert, a female cobra with a sexy voice will flirt with you, which I wouldn't mind. Well, I don't know. A female cobra she could have the sexiest voice ever, but it's still a female cobra. And Easton says, yeah, Jesus was a cowardly human and it could not save anyone. It's like a what-if comic. Yeah, but it's a what-if comic that, I understand. Like I said, the people that got all worked up over the Mary Magdalene scene, that scene was created just to make the movie controversial, in my opinion. Because the movie was no better off with it or without it, because the point of it was that Christ was tempted. That is scriptural, right? It does say that Christ was tempted by the devil. Now, we don't get a lot of detail on it. And so, is it possible that Christ was shown, and this is what the movie depicts, that Christ was shown that he could have a normal life, which included marriage, which of course included sex with Mary Magdalene. So they included the sex scene with Mary Magdalene as basically the devil saying, see, you can have this. And it's, to me, it was unnecessary, it was gratuitous, and I think it was done just to be shocking. Just say, ooh, look, I'm putting Jesus in a sex scene. And it didn't, if you want to do a thought experiment about what if Jesus was, quote, one of us, right, then that is an interesting thought experiment, even if it's not a theologically sound one. But you don't just, throw in a sex scene just so you could do it. All right, so I am going to wrap things up. So with that, let's bring on everybody's favorite sharpshooter, because, that's what we want. And we'll do that. Oh, look at that. Oh, let's see. I think, here you go, guys. Is the sound not on? Let's see here. All right. Let me check. That's weird. Yeah, it's weird. Not playing. All right, let me try. We'll reduce that. That's weird. Yeah. Let's try. Hold on, we'll get it fixed. We'll get it fixed, because I know you guys care about that. That's weird. Yeah. Let's try. Hold on, we'll get it fixed. We'll get it fixed, because I know that's you guys care about that. Of course. That's weird. Yeah. Let's try. Hold on, we'll get it fixed. We'll get it fixed, because I know that's weird. Now I'm getting an echo. All right, so that should clear that up. All right. All right. All right, let's take a look. Why did that not work? I'm sorry about that. And sorry about the weird echoing. So the audio should, let me just exit this. Stop screen share. That one, share audio. So, but it's not playing the audio, I'm assuming. So, I bet you, let me go to, shoot. I wonder what, I wonder if it's a setting in this. But I don't even know how to, how do you change the settings on your media player? I didn't even know. Let's see, we go to audio. Maybe God doesn't want me to play. You could be right. Well, Lore Appreciation Society, I'm sorry, but I'll tell you what, we'll let you see your. There you go. Look at that hairy beast. Oh yeah, there you go. So we'll just there. We'll just leave it there for you, so you can admire Lore's beautiful body. So have a good one, everybody, and yeah, it's Christmas time. So just imagine. You know what would be funny is like if it was like a little Lore that was like 2 feet tall dancing around your Christmas tree like that. Now that's what you're gonna have to picture now. It's like 5 of them dancing in a circle around your tree every morning for Advent season. Merry Christmas, everybody, and have a wonderful week.